Hello everyone, and welcome to IMC and this 7 a.m. teaching. And I was glad that Inez could teach for me while I was gone on retreat. And I'm very happy to be back with all of you. And I very much thought about you and this last week. And I stayed focused on caring for the retreat. There wasn't much room for just a second. And I'm very happy. Okay, so as usual, when I've been gone for a while, the I don't push all the buttons, right? So now I think everything, all the buttons is set. So, welcome. And what I'd like to do this week is to go back to basics. And it's always a good idea to start over, come back to basics, and build the practice, build our world from the basics. So, for the meditation at least, what I'd like to do is most basic is mindfulness of breathing. And mindfulness of breathing in the teachings of the Buddha comes along with 3 steps, a number of steps, but the 3 that I'll emphasize. One is, he says that as one breathes mindfully and feels one's body, one can calm the body, calm the bodily agitation. And then he says that as we're breathing, we can calm the mental agitation, calm the mind. And by implication, it also is, well, let me say it differently. And the third thing he says, that as we're breathing, we can please the mind, we can satisfy the mind. And one way that this happens is we can please the mind or satisfy the mind or inspire the mind by a third form of calming. And that is we can calm mindfulness itself and calm the way that we are aware. As we know what's happening in the present, we can know calmly. As we feel what's happening in the present, we can feel calmly. The body and the mind might still be agitated, but we can be aware of the agitation with a calm awareness, calm mindfulness. And this is the most way to go back to basics. Not simply to be with the breathing, but as we're breathing, to calm the body, the mind, and then more deeply, calm how we're aware, to such a point that it just feels good to be aware. It pleases the mind, it satisfies the heart to be aware calmly. So to assume a meditation posture, an intentional posture, so regardless of what posture you're in, there's an engagement through the body to be present. And gently close the eyes and to connect to the breathing more fully, to establish a connection, to take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Take a few long, slow, deep breaths and relax on the exhale. In an easy way, have a long, slow exhale to extend the time in which you soften the body. And then letting the breathing return to normal. And for a few breaths, to allow the body to experience the sensations of breathing. Maybe almost like a massage, that the torso expands and contracts. The belly expands on the inhale, and if the belly doesn't expand on the inhale, see if you can relax the belly. As you relax, soften the shoulders. As you exhale, soften in the chest. And maybe as you exhale, softening in the face. And as you exhale, to soften, calm the thinking mind, the energy or activation around thinking. Let there be a softening, a letting go. a gentle calming wave through the body as you exhale. Almost as if the pull of gravity gently relaxes the muscles of the body. As you exhale, or if you prefer the inhale, invite the mind to calm, a calming wave through the mind. As if the mind too responds to the pull of gravity to settle, become stable, quiet. And then as you exhale, see if you can be aware of the exhale calmly, a calm knowing of the body, exhaling. Calmly knowing, inhaling. To know, to be aware without pressure. Without strain. Each act of knowing a lightening up whatever heaviness releases in the knowing. Using breathing or some other thing in the present moment to be attentive to how you're aware. Perhaps relaxing any sense of being the doer of awareness. If can't do it completely, then be the allower of awareness, making room for awareness to operate without being the doer. Perhaps each moment of awareness cannot be, not to see it as the end, a punctuation of recognition of what is with a period, but rather the beginning of an opening to a fuller recognition of what comes into awareness. Calmly feeling what's happening, not as something to conclude what's happening, but as a beginning of opening to what may arise next. To know and to calmly be available to know what follows. What you're aware of may be difficult, but see if you can find a way to know the difficulty so the knowing is calm, tranquil knowing, tranquil awareness. being aware calmly, can you find a way to know, feel, sense your experience that is satisfying for the mind? That pleases your mind. Perhaps because the awareness is very simple, ordinary, not looking for anything special, simply aware of what's obvious, awareness that's peaceful. And as we come to the end of this sitting, to appreciate a sense of calm, peaceful knowing that teaches us that agitated knowing will make the situation worse. That it's healthy and appropriate to remain with a calm knowing as we address whatever challenges we find in this world. It's not worth abandoning a peaceful mindfulness. May our ability to be present calmly and clearly support us to go into the world to work for the welfare and happiness of all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may we all contribute to this possibility. Thank you. So hello and welcome to this Monday Dharma talk. And for this week's series, I would like to go back to Buddhist basics, the very core insights and understandings and practices upon which a Buddhist life in the world is built. And at the heart of Buddhism is addressing suffering. And the core teaching that represents this kind of direct, clear-eyed seeing and working with, practicing with suffering is the teachings on the Four Noble Truths. And classically it's called, it is described as the noble truth of suffering, the noble truth of the cause of suffering, and the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, and the noble truth of the path to that ending of suffering. And what I love about the way the classic wording of this, there are no pronouns in the wording of it. So it's knowing suffering wherever it occurs, not chasing after it, but if it's in front of us, if we're paying attention to the world, we'll encounter suffering in ourselves and in others. And then understanding the causes of it, addressing the causes of it. And one of the ways that Buddhism addresses the causes, which is somewhat unique to Buddhism, is not necessarily fixing the problems in the world, but directly, but knowing something about the root cause of suffering that arises in the heart. The Buddha called it a dart that's embedded in the heart that is possible to take out. And so to discover what is it that deep in the heart, that the attachment, the craving, the clinging, the dart, that as long as it's there, that we will suffer. And this phenomenal capacity to take that dart out, that no matter how much we move the deck chairs in the Titanic will go down unless, and we better learn to swim. We better learn to recognize these Four Noble Truths and how to work with them in our lives. And and so I'll be doing this from the next 4 talks, going through these 4 steps of the Four Noble Truths. But for today, I would like to say that we have to be ready for that, we shouldn't just jump into the Four Noble Truths because it could be misunderstood or understood the wrong way, or because people are not ready. And so how are we ready for the Four Noble Truths so that they are meaningful and impactful for us? And maybe what I'll say is not so that accessible, but maybe it'll inspire something for consideration, reflection for you. So to be ready for these teachings of the Four Noble Truths, there has to be faith or confidence, maybe sometimes courage. And what do we have confidence in? What do we have courage about? And that is, we have to have confidence that it's possible to pull the dart out of the heart. It's possible to feel, to experience an end to what is called dukkha, the Pali word for it's translated usually as suffering, which is not the same thing as pain. It's not the same thing as emotional pain, but rather it's a form of distress, a form of a particular type of emotional pain that has a cause that can be eliminated, be taken away, be let go of. That it's a particular kind of distress, particular kind of suffering that has its origin in the reactivity in our own minds and hearts. So we're not trying to get rid of all emotional pain. That would be impossible. But we are trying to find a way to meet all the pain of the world with a heart that is not reactive, that a heart that is not caught up in aversion or caught up in greed or confusion even. And so to have faith that that's possible, to have confidence, even courage, that it's possible to find another way than to be caught up in reactivity, caught up in reactive distress, caught up in reactive hostility, caught up in reactive greed and fear to what's going on here and now. And that's a hard thing to have faith in. It's hard to have confidence both that it's possible and that it's worthwhile. And it does sometimes take courage. And one of the sources of this courage and confidence is to have enough self-awareness to know how we make a situation worse for ourselves. To be able to track that as we encounter something in the world, that the very way in which we react is not required. If we react with hostility, it's not really required to, even if we have to act quickly and firmly, there's no need for hostility. We can feel how that we deteriorate because of it. Because we add a level of emotional pain by responding with hatred and hostility. With a lot of courage, we can see that if we react with conceit, with caught up in ideas of me, myself, and mine, that it actually makes situation worse. It narrows ourselves, it limits ourselves, it divides ourselves with others in the world. And to know that there's an end of conceit, end of attachment to me, myself, and mine. Not that there isn't me, myself, and mine in this world, but it's the attachment to it which has caused so much suffering in this world. Someone has to learn not to be caught by it. Someone should learn how not to be caught by hostility and greed. And someone should learn how not to be caught by fear. And the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, is that you're the one to do that work. If you come to the Dharma, that's the offering, that's the gift of the Dharma, that's the, in a sense, the request, maybe of the Dharma heart, is yes, don't make it worse for ourselves. Because if we do, we make it worse for the world. Don't sacrifice the good in addressing what is bad in this world. Don't sacrifice what's healthy in you for what's unhealthy in this world. There are unhealthy things. There are tremendous forces of greed, hatred, and delusion operating in this world. But we make it worse if we ourselves then respond with greed, hatred, and delusion. There's a world of tremendous clinging and attachment. We don't have to respond in kind. The idea is definitely to respond. The idea is to be living in this world to address this, hopefully to address the suffering. As I said, the Four Noble Truths do not have pronouns associated with them. The suffering of others is in a certain way our own suffering. And once we get clear and relaxed and have let go, pulled the dart from our own heart, we're actually more acutely aware of the suffering of the world. But it's possible to be aware of it without reactivity. Not to be passive, not to do nothing, but in order to be an agent of change. There's a wonderful expression in Pali that is a title, in a sense, of one type of person, a role or way of living in the world. And sometimes it's used as a name. There are Buddhists who receive this from their teachers as their name, but it's a wonderful kind of way of living. And that's the word santikaro, S-A-N-T-I, which means peace. And karo, K-A-R-O, means a maker. So santikaro is a maker of peace. And how can we do this? Become a maker of peace for this world. And one way is to never abandon, courageously avoid abandoning, letting go of, forgetting the fundamental beginning of Buddhist practice, which is to have faith in, confidence in, it is possible to come to an ending of distress, an ending of anguish, an ending of reactive pain, emotional pain. It is possible. It is possible to find an abiding, wonderful feeling, experience of calmly being aware of this difficult world that we're in. And in that calmness, some of the most important and valuable and beautiful qualities of the heart can be with us to address this world, to meet the world with love, with compassion, with kindness and care, to meet it with honesty and directness and respect, to respect all beings. So these next days we will look at the Four Noble Truths And hopefully you come to a greater appreciation that of how invaluable it is to know the basic foundation of where peace can be found, the simplest, most direct route, at least in the teachings of the Buddha, and that you will have faith in the value of the Four Noble Truths, that you'll hear these with confidence. Yes, no matter how little you can practice them, how little you can use them to see more clearly, to that degree it's beneficial. And maybe you'll even have courage, the courage to really take the Four Noble Truths all the way to their end, that you too can find the end of anguish, despair, distress, and the reactive pain that so many people live in. So thank you, and I look forward to coming back tomorrow to begin this series on the Four Noble Truths.